Have you ever heard of a therapy so helpful that it ruins your life? Well, you're about to. Today, we're going to peel back the velvet curtain on one of the great misnomers of modern psychiatry. It's called conversion therapy. It's a practice so medieval, Torquemada might blush, yet polished enough to have once passed for medicine. Conversion therapy and all of its snake oil glory is the misguided crusade to rewire the uncooperative soul, to pray the gay away, to baptize the trans back to cis, and somehow replace someone's identity with a church newsletter and a 6-week course on heteronormativity, which is a fine thing to be if you're hetero. Conversion therapy has been rightly dismissed by every single major mental health association worth their DSM, yet it slithers on, banned in some states and not others. In fact, the Supreme Court has now said it's going to take on a case from Colorado that could decide whether any cities or states can ever legally ban conversion therapy for LGBTQ plus kids. The statistics are a horror show, though, like what happens when you go through this. Survivors of this so-called therapy face depression, addiction, they face HIV risk, they face suicide at rates that make war zones look like wellness retreats. And let's not forget, many are minors. Remember, we do everything for the children. Everything. Yeah, This is to the children, not for the children, by the government that wants to be small and keep its hands off. It wants its hands on. It wants its hands in people's pants. It's unbelievable. Minors shipped off by frightened families hoping to fix what was never broken. How they come to the conclusion something is broken, we're going to get into in just a minute. In this carnival of cruelty, there are some voices that rise above the din. Curtis Lopez Galloway, forged in the fire of this twisted practice, turned trauma into activism. He's now uniting survivors through the Conversion Therapy Survivor Network. Joining him is Samuel Neves, a voice as sharp as his mind, wielding a personal experience and psychological training like a scalpel. So brace yourself. This is a grim fairy tale and a reckoning. Look at that, 28 metaphors in one single sentence. Curtis Lopez Galloway, founder and president of Conversion Therapy Survivor Network. Samuel Neves, board director, I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you for having us.
So you guys are both eyewitnesses of this. It's not some theoretical proposition and you're on some nonprofit because it's a lovely thing to do, like let's recycle more or help ducks. You've been there. This is real stuff. Do you mind if we just jump right into it and talk? Let's start with you, Curtis Lopez Galloway. You are the founder of this organization. Your experience with conversion therapy, given that maybe 90% of our audience is straight and they're like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah. So when I was 16 years old, I was sent to a licensed therapist in Kentucky. I was living in Illinois at the time, and I was taken there by my parents, and I had to do weekly meetings with the guy. So we would travel about an hour and a half to the town in which he lived to do conversion therapy. And it was one of the worst things that ever happened to me in my entire life. It tore my family apart, and it has had lasting impacts. My story does have a happy ending, unlike some other people, but yeah, it was an experience for sure.
So they send you off to this because they feel that they believe that the psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever these people are, in lab coats, not in lab coats, can make you ungay, which we know, by the way, is a biological imperative. Correct me where I'm wrong, but 10% of the animal population is same-sexual, like it or not. Dolphins, seagulls, giraffes are some 70%. It happens in nature. It happens on purpose. Wasps, the flying kind, not the kind in Nantucket, were studied in the 1950s. This is what Alfred Kinsey came up with, the Kinsey scale, watching wasps. have same sexual behavior. So it is a natural phenomenon. It has been around since the ancient Greeks and since we first started drawing in caves. Yet somehow they think that a bunch of hootenannies who read a textbook can cure it like it's a mental affliction. Am I right on that?
Yes, yeah. So they feel that it's I guess their God-given right and their imperative to try and fix what's not broken, essentially. And they go out of their way to target children and try to turn them straight and make them what my conversion therapist tried to say was the man or the woman that God wants them to be.
So the obvious question next is, did it work? Are you with your wife who is thrilled that somehow you have been turned into something that she's not sure is stable or is going to last forever, but like you're straight, right? Because it worked?
Yeah, I do need to break the news to my husband though that I now have a wife and that it worked way back when. Yeah.
But so again, you and I, we can talk about this all day. We both understand what we're talking about. There are going to be millions of people listening who this is still brand new. Like, what? Um, you go through this. They basically torture you. It's not like, here, have a lovely ham sandwich and a massage, and you're just going to suddenly unlike what you like. There's techniques that are involved in this that nobody would want to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Sam might be able to touch on this a bit more with his experience, but mine was completely therapeutical in practice, and that's in air quotes as a pseudoscience, but we see it runs a whole gamut and it's all abusive, overwhelmingly abusive in every way possible. And you hear horror stories from some people being sexually abused, being electrocuted, being forced to vomit. It's just it's horrible, and it's still happening all over the place, all over the world.
I appreciate that. Well, then let's jump into Sam. Sam, is it Neves? Am I
Uh,
okay? Nieves?
Nieves is what I would say, but I'll take whatever you give me.
No, I'm going to say whatever you want. That way I don't get in trouble here. Let's say Nieves, okay?
Thank you.
Samuel Nieves, you are a board member. You had a different experience. You are also a physical eyewitness to what has happened here. Can you walk us through a little of that? Again, understanding that most people may not be familiar with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I, like the majority of the survivors that we talk with, went through in a religious way. About 80% of conversion therapy is led because of religious values. I was raised as a Mormon. And when my mission president, I was knocking on doors trying to convert people to become Mormons. My mission president that I talked with found out that I was gay because I was confessing that I was dealing with temptations, and then he sent me home because I needed to go change. And so my entire family and community now knew that I had ended my mission early. And so there was a lot of social pressure to make this work. But unfortunately, any tool that can be helpful within the field of therapy can be bastardized and twisted so that, well, this is really the reason that you're gay. It's not because you were born this way. It's because, oh, you must have a bad relationship with your parents. And so you could take something like, hey, let's work out a better relationship with your parents. Let's have better communication. And then when you have better communication and now your family's a little bit better and you still end up, well, I'm still gay. Well, you're the problem. It wasn't that the therapy was wrong. It's that you are broken and now we need to find something else. And so it's always this search for something new because it doesn't work. And so, yeah, it absolutely did not work for me. And I would say that the most painful part was that aspect of you had to keep trying something new. This didn't work, so I had to see another therapist. That didn't work, so I had to see another therapist. One labeled me as a transgender woman, even though I'm a cisgender gay male, right? Like they really don't know what they're doing because they're looking for a solution to a problem that's not there. So they always have to come up with these quack theories and twists in order to salivate over what they think the heteronormative way to live needs to be.
It seems to me, Samuel Nieves, that these so-called doctors They actually believe what they're doing, or are they just getting a paycheck to fulfill a job?
No, they definitely believe it. And I would say one of the biggest problems is that there's a demand for it. When you do have your entire community, like myself and my family, saying, you cannot be you if you want to be acceptable in this community and we will reject you, well, there's this huge demand. And so now people who are trained in therapy have this person saying, hey, I can't be part of my community if I'm honest. Then now, if they were an ethical therapist, they would lean into that and say, well, let's figure out what you can do to make peace with your situation. But because these therapists or these doctors are also themselves religious, they are motivated to fix what can't be fixed because here's this huge demand and they thrive off of it. So as long as there's a demand for conversion therapy, as long as churches continue to reject queer people, there will always be a demand. And that's why we focus on survivors and offer a healing space, because that's definitely something that we can help.
So we're talking about cosmetics. Really, it's cosmetics. It looks good in the community. We can tithe better. We're all the same. We're homogenous. We're beautiful white people, squeaky, squeaky. The people of color are in their back somewhere. We don't have to see them unless invited. So it's just optics. It's shocking because it reminds me of Dr. Mengele. And I know it's shocking to bring up anything like that, but why not? It's like making a dog meow. I don't know that that's ever successfully been done, but that's the plan here. And you have PTSD. You have to after that. I mean, that is a serious reboot in someone trying to convince you that has more power than you, that somehow you really are deficient, even though Sam and Curtis, I'm guessing you believe you were actually born that way. It wasn't a choice on a Tuesday, like, I think I'll kiss a guy. I have nothing to do this afternoon between getting my oil changed. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, unlike Curtis, who was sent there by his parents, I'm one of the people who went as an adult. So I think if anyone proves that you weren't born this way, it's people like myself who, as an adult, went in and said, hey, I still have tried everything and it's not working. Why am I still gay? If I can't change and I was highly motivated, clearly this isn't changeable.
Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files. We're talking about a phenomenon that is rebooting in the United States. It's happening under the current administration. The Supreme Court is hearing this quack science in order to remold, reboot the population. We've already had transgenderism really just banned everywhere. The Pentagon has taken roller brushes and painted over walls for diversity. People are being disincluded at the speed of light. A lot of people don't understand that they're the ones being disincluded. They think, well, it ought to be merit. It doesn't matter how much merit you have. Unless you can make the money, then you get to come and play at the party. And you get to be openly whatever, like Commerce Secretary Bessent. It's not a problem at that level. But most of us, of the 380 million Americans, not at that level. So this avenue of torture is being opened up to homogenize the population and make it easier to establish policies. We're streaming right now on Substack and YouTube. You can simply Google Cary Harrison Substack or YouTube so we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination. You can also easily find the video live streaming right now at kpfk.net. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com. We're talking right now to Curtis Lopez Galloway and Samuel Nieves. If you're just tuning in, we're deep in the underbelly of a practice that calls itself therapy, but operates more like spiritual exorcism with a side of psychological warfare. Conversion therapy, whatever it could be called, is marketed as salvation, delivered as trauma. Curtis Lopez Galloway is a survivor and founder of the Conversion Therapy Survivor Network, along with Samuel Nieves. They're both here to cut through the euphemisms and name what this really is: abuse masquerading as care. Are there a lot of people that go through this, or are you two the only ones that it ever happened to? And wow, how cool to have you on the show today.
Yeah, it was estimated, I think, it was estimated about 10 years ago that 700,000 people had been through conversion therapy, some sort of practice, and that many more are going to be going through it by the time they turn 18. So it really is widespread. It's worldwide. It's not just the United States. A lot of these practitioners that are out here doing these things are also exporting their goods, as it were, to other countries where they're doing seminars in Europe and South America and Africa and everywhere. It's everywhere, along with practices that are just copycats of what's happening as well. So it is very widespread. It's still happening, even in California. I'm in California, but it's still happening. And this is one of the central hubs of some of the practices that are out there, because it is excluded from the bans that are in place, that are currently in place, because they're not licensed therapists and they're just doing whatever they think they can do to try and change people under the guise of religious freedom.
Let me ask you the obvious question, Curtis Lopez Galloway. Here it's stated that it's a major problem. We have to fundamentally change somebody. We're told that it's, I guess publicly, we're told that it's somehow a choice. If it were a choice, why wouldn't every single straight man choose a little fun on a Friday night? Why do they not choose that, I wonder?
Yeah, I mean, the notion that it's a choice is just ridiculous, and I've always thought it was ridiculous, even from day one, because it's like, well, why would I choose to be here? Sitting in this office with this strange man that is trying to tell me that I need to be straight. Why would I choose
Not
that?
talking about me as the host, by the way. We can see each other on video.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you with humor, so I'll step back and let
Oh,
you
no,
keep
no,
talking.
Yeah, I mean, the notion is just ridiculous, right? It's not a choice. No one would choose to be gay if they had the choice. I mean, well, at this point, I probably would. But
Well, first, yes, because you know about
yeah,
it.
because
It's
I
kind
know
of like
now.
if you were I choose to have a lead pipe to the side of my head. I could have that or a massage.
Right.
I could have vanilla ice cream or pain. So I think most people are reasonable and understand this. Now, this might be new education for many people that this is even going on. And we would look at it the same thing as a human experiment from World War II, which is illegal under the Nuremberg codes, which so many of us still support. We see this as exactly the same thing. And it's at the end of the day, it's to raise money. And I hate to say it, but the point of organized religion is to remain in power. What is the Holy Roman Empire? It is the vestige, or the Vatican is the vestige of the Holy Roman Empire that ran most of Earth. And they have the best real estate on the planet, whether you're on the left bank in Paris or anywhere in any major city. The cathedral is sitting there in the best real estate ever. And this has nothing to do with, do they do good work? Sure. But if you're going to run any kind of organization, corporation, empire, people all have to have rules to follow, and they need to follow the rules. And you need to be convinced they're going to follow the rules and not go rogue. I think there's something that you guys have probably learned, that gay guys, or LGBTQ at large, don't just march to a single drum beat. They tend to have a more breadth in decision, in creativity. We certainly know in World War II, who solved the cryptographic problem against the Germans. It was a gay brain. In fact, the Department of War at the time wrote, and it's openly published, you can look it up, anyone can look it up online, that they picked what they called homosexual brains from Ivy League schools. They were the only ones that had the capacity to understand the most complicated mathematics. This was the Department of War to save the world. So it's not an unknown phenomenon. Gore Vidal, some of the greatest historians, Alexander the Great, who conquered most of the known planet, the Emperor Hadrian, who famously had a boyfriend, Antinous, who even built a gate in front of Zeus's temple. So this is not some new phenomenon that needs to be erased, but erased, that seems to be the key word in the goal of this process.
If you look at the research, they actually don't call it conversion therapy. They call it sexual orientation, gender identity change efforts, the term SOGICE. And the reason I love that term is because that helps us identify every place where conversion therapy is happening. It's easier to identify it when you're in front of a therapist and he's giving you these quack therapies about, hey, I need you to pick up some magazine, some Playboy, and find some way to enjoy it, even though you're a gay man. That was not a pleasurable experience, right? And it didn't work. But when you take something that obvious, it's easy to not appreciate it, but it's so much harder to identify conversion therapy when it happens at the home. And someone says, you just need to find the right girl. Or when you talk to a pastor and they say, you just need to pray harder. All of those experiences, even though it's not in front of a clinician, are still elements of conversion therapy. And we can see that every week when we talk with survivors. And it still happens, and we know because there are people who have come into our group who just finished their conversion therapy a month ago. So it's pervasive, it's happening all the time, and it's so easy to do when your goal is to change someone to not be their authentic self. And it's incredibly damaging when you look at the research.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Samuel Nieves. I did find the right girl, several of them, once upon a time, and I stole them. It's called human theft. I took them off the market. They thought I was their boyfriend. I, of course, was leading two entirely different lives simultaneously. One fully with them, one fully not with them. That would be called cheating in the straight world that they want you to be part of. This is not to disparage the straight world, but that's what they would call that, cheating. And here's the problem. When you steal a woman because you're in the closet, because the punishment is too great for you to be congruent with your nature, something that we here in LA, here in California, what is the one thing everyone says every day? Just be your authentic self. Okay, I'm going to do that, and you're going to get punished. So really, don't be your authentic self. Be this variant of it. So I had these girlfriends for maybe 2 years. During those 2 years, the guy who would see her on the sidewalk, who wanted her, who wanted to marry her, who saw this is the woman I want to spend my life with, I want to have babies with, I want to build a picket fence with, I want to absolutely be with her. She's not on the market. She's not available to see him back. And that's because I'm borrowing her. She believes the unfortunate canard that I'm forced by society to carry. I cannot restore those 2 years to her. I cannot bring back the opportunities that she missed. I cannot make her younger ever again. And I'm forced to do that because this society is telling me at the time that it is the only way I am allowed to survive. And it's cruel to women because how do you ever pay them back for what they go through? And I know you guys are so aware of this as well.
Absolutely. We hear these stories every week. I can think of one of just about every lesbian woman who comes in who has been in a mixed orientation marriage will tell us about all the experiences that they've had of feeling like, I think a particular woman said that she realized one day that she loved her husband like she loved her cat and realized, oh shoot, this was never fixed. I've just been playing a role. And if that doesn't tell you what it's like to have to twist your brain into, yeah, I love him. Sure, but the love that you have for your spouse is not the way it's supposed to be when it's an authentic relationship. And when she saw that, that was the end of her mixed orientation marriage. But there's so many stories that we hear every week that are just heartbreaking.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? Well, you call low-cost airlines because they specialize in cheap flights, in discount hotel rooms, in cheap car rentals, and with the best price guarantee. Often 75% off. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795.
Do you have diabetes? If you have insurance, you may qualify for a new continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends, spend more time in range, lower your A1C, and share important data with loved ones and caregivers. Most importantly, a continuous glucose monitor allows you to fully take charge of your health. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you take insulin, you may qualify for a CGM today. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances cover continuous glucose monitors. So don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call VeraMed Health now.
Call 855-996-9708, 855-996-9708. Call 855-996-9708. Call now.
You listen? Well, it's still legal.
The Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
It is the Cary Harrison Files. Cary Harrison with you. If you're just tuning in, deep in the underbelly of a practice here, calling itself therapy, but operating more like spiritual exorcisms with a side of psychological warfare, it's called conversion therapy, marketed as salvation, delivered as trauma. We're talking to Curtis Lopez Galloway, a survivor, an advocate, and founder of the Conversion Therapy Survivor Network, along with Samuel Nieves. They're both here to cut through the euphemisms and name what this really is: abuse masquerading as care. By the way, we're live streaming right now on Substack and YouTube, so you can simply Google Cary Harrison Substack or YouTube, and that way we stay connected when you arrive at your destination. You can also find live streaming video at kpfk.net. And when you sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com, you're going to get a transcript of this entire show. So you can actually read things that are mentioned, websites that are mentioned, all will be in the transcript, plus access to clips and stuff that we can't do on the radio. And that's our newsletter at caryharrison.com. Curtis Lopez Galloway and Samuel Nieves, how does your cultural background intersect with the expectations placed on your identity? And how did that affect your path?
Well, so I grew up in non-denominational Christian background. I would say that it was definitely a part of it. I'm a white, cis, gay man, and there's a lot of pressure put on straight men in the rural areas where I come from to be the exemplary, just be the perfect man, essentially. And, you're supposed to have 2.1 kids, a wife, and a white picket fence. And so that really played into why I was sent and what I was supposed to play into. I was supposed to be this religious person. I was supposed to, go to church every Sunday and be an upstanding person within the church and in the community, because looks were everything. And that was one of the things that was really concerning to my parents, was that I wasn't going to be that way, and that I wasn't going to be this, this man that has a wife and 2.5 kids with a white picket fence, right? And so I think that definitely played into it, and you see that happening a lot in rural areas, but also, it happens everywhere else too. But that was kind of the background for my experience.
And Samuel Nieves, what about you?
Well, for me, being Latino, definitely there's a lot of machismo in our community, a lot of pressure to conform. But when you also consider that I was raised as a Mormon in Provo, Utah, where the majority of people are white, my bullying started for being gay at 7, and that's also when I was started to be bullied for being brown. And it's not great when the Mormon Church officially taught that you could become white if you prayed hard enough. So not only did I have the message from my church that I could become white and straight if I was a righteous Mormon, that taught me from an early age that if none of that works, well, then the natural consequence is something like conversion therapy. So for me, whenever I find ex-Mormons who are gay, the thought that they didn't go through conversion therapy always perplexes me, because it makes me wonder if they truly believed the religion, because that seemed like the natural consequence for me. That's in the entire plan of what Mormons claim to be salvation, that you're supposed to get married, you're supposed to have babies for eternity, and that's just how religion works. And so the idea of not going to conversion therapy seemed like an admission that I didn't truly believe in God and that I really wasn't faithful. So for me, I'm always perplexed when I find people who didn't go through what I went through. It just seemed like a natural consequence.
Now, you have no idea, but earlier you said something, and I'm just stuck on it like a needle in a record groove. Samuel Nieves, you said earlier that they told you that you could pray your way into becoming white. What?
It's still in the Mormon scripture. It claims that becoming brown is a punishment for your sin. And although they claim that officially that they denounce racist doctrines like they used to teach, and until 1978 they didn't allow Black people to join their full rank and file membership, the doctrine is still there. And so regardless of whether they make protests like, hey, if you're righteous enough, you could become white. It's literally in the scripture, and they believe you'll be white when you're resurrected. So it's in their doctrine, even if they make protests about it. And it's the same with conversion therapy. They claim that we're welcome, but back in 2015, the Mormon Church said if you are gay and you have kids, your kids can't be baptized until they're 18 and denounce your relationship. And then there was backlash, and then they had to, trickle that back. And so when you have a doctrine like that, which treats you like a pedophile on your records within the Mormon Church, that by definition, that's like doctrinal sogice. So again, for me, whenever I meet ex-Mormons who are gay, it's like, how did you not? Because that's the natural consequence of what we believe.
Let's jump into for a second about your network, your survivors network. What is it that you guys actually do for sufferers who come in, PTSD, damaged, unsure, questioning just everything they've known? The gravity that they can feel under their feet is now suspect. At least they've been told that. They really don't know where to go or how to think. What do you guys do to help?
Yeah, so we hold weekly meetings on Sundays. And it's just a support group for conversion therapy survivors, people that have gone through varying degrees of the practice and have various backgrounds. They meet together and they actually talk to one another all across the world. And they find communal healing and are able to discuss things that other people that haven't gone through conversion therapy just don't understand what they're feeling. And I've been in many of the sessions, obviously, and you always, even though everybody has a different story and has a different experience of what they've went through, I can understand exactly what they're feeling when they're explaining it, because it is something I have felt before. And only other survivors really know what that's like. I can't explain it, but it's something that we all can feel when we're there.
Well, you're in neighboring Palm Springs, and there are going to be a lot of Angelinos, especially Jack Mormons. Is that the right term?
Yes.
And I know quite a few gay Mormons, formerly known as, looking probably to have some kind of fellowship connection and therapeutic outlet. How do we follow you, get in touch with you, know who you are?
Yeah, so we're on every major social media except for X. We don't have that anymore. But we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. We've got a YouTube channel where we post some things. But our main way to reach us is our website, which is conversionsurvivor.org. And you can find resources there. You can find a link to register for our Sunday event, and look at all of our publications and work that we've done.
Well, this is an act of bravery that you're doing, especially during these political times. It was tough before, but I'm telling you right now, this is really an act of bravery. So hats off to you. And anyone that thinks somehow that gay people are just soft and malleable, let me tell you, some of the biggest kick-ass people that have ever lived have been gay. Like I was listing a lot of military people earlier, and in our own military, we've had on Jeff Keyes, a decorated Marine. We've had on Brent Hatley, another decorated Marine. There's just so many, and you may not even know. You just may not even know. But when many of them go through what they go through, and any of you who might tick a box called other, and DEI, I think covers most people. Unless you are a white not even Anglo-Saxon anymore, just a white Southern Baptist in Alabama. Outside of that, you're probably ticking a box called DEI, and you are in the crosshairs. Whether you like it or not, sooner or later, you may have to go bye-bye. So thanks to these two guys for keeping the playing field level and bringing out that which many of us didn't know about before. Any final thoughts on what somebody dealing with this right now might be able to do?
I would ask people to just share that our organization exists. I can't tell you how many people don't even know that this organization is there to help. I needed this organization when I left conversion therapy back in 2006, and I suffered for decades because I had no people who understood what it was like. And now that I finally have this group, healing has gone through the roof.